Hey guys, I'm out here today underneath one of our pecan trees. The shade is just so nice. It is actually, gosh, close to 80 and we are in November. So I'm not sure what is going on with the weather. Last week we did have a cold snap. We were down in the 50s and we actually got down to the low 20s at night. But this week, and in fact for the foreseeable future, we're gonna be 70s, maybe even pushing 80 degrees, and nighttime's gonna be between 40 to 50. So I think it's unseasonably warm, but I'd have to look back in my notes to see if this is our typical temperature, but I don't think it is. But with the current state of the world and the economy and everything, I thought that you guys might find it informational to sort of hear our backstory. Because there are so many people right now that are thinking about getting into homesteading and raising their own food and animals because the costs at the grocery stores are high. You know, the political state of the world is very uncertain. You just kind of don't know what's coming down that pipeline. So anyways, let me bring you guys back to when we made this decision to homestead, which really wasn't that long ago. I was never the person that ever wanted to homestead. I never wanted to raise my own animals. I never wanted to have a garden. Heck, I mean, it took us forever just to get a dog. So I just didn't want that responsibility or any of the work. In fact, my neighbor had said to me, "Hey, I'm gonna get some chickens. Do you want chickens?" And I said, "Who in the world wants chickens? Why would you want chickens? You can just go buy your own eggs at the store." And so it was just such a foreign idea. But when COVID hit in 2020 and the grocery store shelves were empty, and I kid you not, there was not one package of meat in the cooler, I panicked. I'm a chronic overreactor. If you've watched my channel for long, you may know that. And I thought, man, what are we gonna do? Our freezers were running really, really low. I didn't have much food in the house. I had never kept a good stockpile of food. I had never done any of that before. I had done some food preservation very early in our marriage, but that was just more so just for fun. It never was for self-sufficiency or anything. So I came to Nate and told him what my thoughts were and what my worries were, and it was a very hard decision, but we decided to sell that house and to move to a property with more land that would allow us to homestead. Our last property, we were not allowed to have any animals on except for horses, and it was a very sloped property, so there really wasn't a lot of area to expand to do a very large garden that would feed our family. So we found this property and, you know, we bought it and we started putting in the garden and the chicken coops and everything. But before I started any of this, I never thought about the cost. I never thought that it would actually cost us money to produce our own food and our own animals. I just thought, you know, hey, you grow your own vegetables, you go harvest them, hey, that's free, right? That's free produce. But it's not. And it's so funny, the other day I was in Sam's Club and this guy came up to me and he said, "Wow, you know, are all these kids yours?" And I thought, no, I just randomly round up children from the neighborhood to be grocery shopping with me. But anyways, I told him, yeah, you know, they're all my kids. And he said, "Is it expensive to feed your family?" And I said, well, we grow a lot of our own food, so I don't have to spend so much at the store. And he said, "Do you have chickens?" And I said, "Yeah, I do have chickens." And he said, "Oh, so you get free eggs. That's great." You know, and this was the time when eggs were really expensive. And I thought, well, they're not exactly free. So, you know, it's that common misconception of you think, you know, I'm going to get free eggs and I'll have free chicken, you know, free poultry, and I'll have free pork and I'll get free lettuce and tomatoes from the garden. But man, it's a big investment at first. So if you are thinking about homesteading, really look into that. I mean, one of our chicken coops, and this is when prices weren't even that crazy, one of our chicken coops cost us about $1,000 and we built it all ourselves. We didn't bring anybody in for that. So just one of those coops was $1,000. We have two of them plus a little center coop there. The garden, I mean, heavens. The T-posts, I want to say I paid maybe $4 a T-post for. Now they're up to $8, and that's because they're the 8-foot posts, because you have to pound them down into the ground. And if you want a 6-foot tall fence to keep deer out of your garden and from eating all your food, you need that height of a fence. And so just to buy T-posts for that garden or a roll of fencing is around $200 now. My chicken feed, when we first started here, I would buy 1,600 pounds of feed at a time. It was $220. This last time I just got it, it was $400. And that's the same for our pig feed. When we bring our pigs in, we buy 1,600 pounds of feed. It was around 200 in 2021. Now it's around 400, and I have not priced it this year because we don't have pigs, and I haven't bought chicken feed in the last few months since we're still going off of the last batch that we brought in. So, I mean, that alone is just, I mean, really, really high costs. I mean, just the bedding for your chicken coops. We've been using sand, and it's been working for us. I do kind of like pine shavings, but I mean, they're $8 for an 8 cubic foot bag. At Tractor Supply. They used to be 10 cubic feet, and they used to be closer to $4. So just everything has gone up. The price of everything, your tools, your equipment, if you need a tiller, if you need a tractor because you have fields that you need to bush hog so that they don't turn back into forests. There's just a lot of costs involved. But if you're thinking about homesteading and you want to move to a property, man, I'm telling you what, they have priced you out. You have been priced out of this market. The average home price used to be around $200,000, and now in 2023 it's $431,000. So if that alone isn't enough to price you out, let's talk about mortgage rates. So if you were to finance $200,000 at a rate of, let's say, like 2.875, right? I mean, that was a pretty fair rate a couple of years ago. You would be paying a mortgage of around $830 a month. That's principal and interest. That doesn't include your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance. Okay, now, if you were to finance that same home, $200,000, and you were to have an interest rate of 8%, you are now paying $1,660 a month for the same house, the same loan. You're just paying the bank back so much more in interest. But if you want to talk about a $400,000 house at 8%, that's going to run you closer to $3,200 a month. And don't even get started on property taxes, because when you buy your home, most municipalities will come out and they'll reassess that home once it's sold, because a lot of places have rules that they can't increase the property taxes over a certain percentage in a certain amount of time. But if you buy a home, then your home's fair game to reassess at the full price of whatever they want to put it at. So our property taxes when we bought went up 48% from what the previous owner was paying. And this year, again, they went up again. By just doing a quick Zillow search in my area, I was able to find some properties, and I just want to throw some numbers out at you guys about these. It's quite interesting. The only filter that I put in on this search was that it had to have a minimum of 5 acres. I know that you can have less than that, but I wanted to put that in case, you know, sometimes for larger animals you need a little bit more land, or maybe you want to make sure that you're out of an HOA, so that larger acreage would sort of help with keeping you out of those regulations and things and being able to sustain more animals. But anyways, there was one house. It was on 9 acres. It was built in 2003, and it was 2,700 square feet, and it basically... It was just sort of like a rectangular house. I mean, it was very pretty, but nothing crazy. And they wanted, get this, $900,000 for that. And I mean, that's just down the road. Okay. Then there was another property, if you don't want to go so big with square footage. This home was 1,500 square feet. It was built in 1962. It had not been updated. I mean, not updated at all. It was like going into grandma and grandpa's house, right? With the avocado appliances and things. A little bit retro, you know, kind of brings back those nice memories. But anyways, not updated. It was on 20 acres. So that was really, really nice. This house was $700,000. It's just crazy. When you think of the average mortgage payment in America right now being $2,600, man, rent is cheaper than that. And rents aren't necessarily cheap, but it is cheaper right now to rent than to buy. I mean, why do you think they're building all these homes in rural America? I mean, all around me. I'm in rural America. They're building these huge housing developments on 4,000 square foot lots. That is the size of the lot, okay? If you consider that 25% of single family residential homes are owned by commercial investors, I mean, we are quickly becoming a nation of renters when you can't afford to buy your own home. So now you have to rent. They're throwing houses up on these tiny, tiny lots. You know, these investors are buying them. The builders are building them as cheaply as they can. The investors are buying 500 at a time and then renting them out. So you're living there, you're able to pay that rent payment, but you don't have any land. You don't have anywhere to do a garden. You know, you can do some of those vertical gardens and things like that, but that cannot sustain you. That is not enough. Now don't get me wrong, I love my vertical gardens and I have 4 of them, but it's not enough to feed my family. I mean, not even close. And so they're making us into a nation of renters, and they're taking away your ability to even have the option of producing your own food. And even if you do live in a community like that and you think, well, I could do a couple of garden beds, I mean, all of these communities are going to have HOAs. I have some friends that just bought property and they're on 8 acres and they don't have an HOA, but they have something on their property since it was owned by a certain person. When they sold that property and built houses on them for people to buy, they put it in there that these people could not have any type of livestock, not even chickens, and they're on 8 acres. So it's just crazy the amount of rules that are in there. But I just kind of wanted to share that story with you guys, give you that backstory, let you see sort of, man, it is expensive to grow your own food and to get started. If you're not already here, I would suggest, man, kind of holding off. I mean, unless you can pay cash for something and you're not having to pay those high interest rates. Because if you look at the markets and you look at the trends and you look at the economic cycles, a lot of people and a lot of real estate agents want to tell you like, oh, it's just temporary. The interest rates are going to come down. You can just refinance. Buy it now, get into a house now, and you can just refinance. But I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think that these interest rates are going to hang around for a long time. So, I mean, there are ways to do it. You could potentially buy property, and if you get it in an area that doesn't have specific regulations, like here in my county, you can live in a camper. Whereas the next county over, you can't do that. You can't even live in a tiny home in the next county over. Anything under, I think it's 800 square feet, is not considered a legal residence. Which is crazy to me. People should be able to live wherever they want and however they want. But here in my county, so you can live in a camper. So you could buy a parcel of land, live in a camper. It may not be completely comfortable. I mean, you know, life never is, but that could be a way that you could do it, right? Until you get that infrastructure in, and then you could work on, you know, maybe building a small cabin, a small home, and adding on over time, you know, the way that our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents did it, right? They didn't start off with the big stuff, you know, they built on over time. You can see these properties online, you know, that have homes and have barns and have all of these outbuildings. Well, they weren't put on all at once because that's just unaffordable. But there are ways to do it. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope that shed a little bit of light on this whole homesteading lifestyle. You know, a lot of people don't think about the costs. They don't think about the initial investments. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that to light and share a little backstory with you guys on how we got here. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you have any other suggestions to those people who are really longing to grow their own food and to be more sustainable so that they aren't relying on grocery stores and the government and everything else, leave that in the comments below. I think it would be very helpful. Thank you guys, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.